What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back. It is the Dual Threat Podcast, your daily news source for all things sports. I'm Drew, and this is my co-host.
Yes, sir. It's Jacob, boys. How we doing? We are back with another episode. For those of you who were around in 2020, when before we took our little break, Drew went and got married. A lot of stuff happened. A lot of life stuff happened. We did a segment on Fridays called Friday Night Lines. Obviously, a play on Friday Night Lights, and it's where we talk about our favorite betting lines of the week. So, with that being said, let's get straight into it. Friday Night Lines.
But first, before we switch into it, we just want to say, Josh Pate, we know you stole this idea from us, but I'll let it slide personally because I'm a fan, but you might have to take it up with Jacob. I don't know.
Yep. Hey, all I know is Friday Night Lines, the theme. Drew and I created it 2 years ago, and this man is stealing our thunder, but that's fine. That's fine. We'll be where he is very soon.
All right, let's get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So for our first spread of this year, Jacob, why don't you go ahead and talk about it, and see who we got for our first lock of the week.
All right. Well, I know some of you probably weren't around, but the pod has always been fans of Rutgers. And I say that it's really just me. I picked Rutgers to beat Indiana in week 2 in 2020.
And I think Rutgers pulls off the big upset this week.
Nope.
Guess what? They did not. We are back on the Rutgers train against Ohio State this week. Rutgers is plus 39.5 points. And you might be sitting there thinking, Rutgers is a bad team and Ohio State is dominant. Well, listen, I don't know that we've seen the Ohio State that everybody is thinking Ohio State is yet. CJ Stroud's great. He should be a Heisman contender. Travion Henderson's also great. Also should be a Heisman contender. But we haven't seen Jackson Smith and Jigba. Ohio State has some good receivers, but they're not Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave level. I'm just saying a 3-1 Rutgers playing some pretty solid football this year, be it against bad teams. I think they're going to hang with Ohio State. And listen, it doesn't have to be close. They could lose by literally 38 points. And I think they're going to, and I think they cover that 39.5. We'll see. We'll see. But I got faith. I got faith in the Scarlet Knights. Always have, and I always will. All right, Drew, over to you.
All right. For our second game of the week. So for the first game, you forgot to mention, the line has actually moved throughout the week in favor of where we're going here. This one's going actually the opposite, which is pretty surprising to me. It started out at 6.5. It's actually been brought down to 5.5. We don't care. We like it even better that way. Oklahoma minus 5.5. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, they played horrible last week. We all saw it against Kansas State. Martinez ran and threw all over them, which he could never do at Nebraska in 300 years. But he was able to do it against Oklahoma's defense, and their offense didn't look that great. I understand that. We said that would occur. Now we're telling you this. Dillon Gabriel is in wounded animal mode, and he will come out firing against a TCU team that has not been proven, has not really played anybody. Oklahoma has only really played one team, you could argue, and lost. But I would argue that Kansas State is actually a very good under-the-radar team, a possible Big 12 contending team. And I don't think TCU is there. They just lost their coach, a brand new coach. I think it's too early for TCU right now. I don't really know if Miller is that guy in a way. And so I think that, I don't know, man. I think Dugan is an okay quarterback. He's got about 700 yards on the year. But then again, they haven't really played anybody. SMU, that's a pretty solid win. But Colorado is probably the worst team in the country behind a team we'll talk about later today. And and so I think we're going with Oklahoma here, minus 5.5. We think they're going to bounce back from that horrible upset last week that just crushed them in the polls. I think they're going to bounce back. Venables, he's a defensive mind. I think he'll get them back into shape. So, Jacob, why don't you talk about our game 3 here?
All right, game 3, everybody. This one, a couple under the radar teams, couple less known teams, not Power 5, but I have a confession to make, everybody. The Dual Threat podcast has always been unbiased and shown no favoritism towards teams. But I am a UMass fan. And as hard as it can be sometimes, it's going to be hard this weekend as well. Eastern Michigan, 20-point favorites against UMass. We love Eastern Michigan. Listen, the Minutemen, they got heart, they got grit, but what they don't have is a quarterback or a good football team overall. Listen, Gino Campiotti, he's mid is him playing his best possible game. He has like 160 yards through 4 games. Listen, you can go look at the stats yourself. Just trust me when I say, as somebody who's watched all 4 games, hammer Eastern Michigan and thank me later. That's that's about it for the UMass game. I don't think I need to say anything else. They're going to try to run the ball and maybe have some success. They're not going to score more than 10 points, and Eastern Michigan puts up about 30 points against competent teams. So we'll be fine. What Eastern Michigan minus 20, we will be fine, everybody.
You say we as in the betting community.
Correct.
Okay.
The UMass is not going to be fine. We are going to get destroyed.
Okay, just wanted to clear that up because as we all know now, it's out in the open. You are a UMass fan. All right, so our next game we've got here, it's sort of what you would call a bounce back game in some way because Georgia is favored by 29 against Missouri. Now you're saying a bounce back game, you must be taking Missouri here plus the points. Actually, no, we're taking Georgia. It's sort of a bounce back game because Georgia didn't look phenomenal against Kent State like they have all year long. Georgia has dominated everybody. We think they kind of took a week off to kind of get ready for the SEC play here. And so I think Georgia minus 29 is basically free money. You've got Missouri on the other side who is just so down right now because they basically handed Brian Harsin a win and saved his career. Brian Harsin was packed his bags already, ready to move to Hawaii or somewhere because he was about to get a fat check from getting fired. But Missouri fumbled the ball in the end zone and lost it in overtime. I think that just completely just destroyed that team. And they don't have much offense to begin with, much less when they play against, one of the best defenses in the country. I think we take Georgia here. Stetson Bennett didn't play great last week, granted, but I think everybody can get 1 week off, especially when you're playing Kent State. That's the best time to do it. So I think Georgia bounces back here, minus 29. We think they win about probably by 35 or more. And so, Jacob, do you want to take this last game, or would you like me to kind of touch up on it?
We can both talk about it a little bit. I'll kick us off. Last game we're talking about, we don't really know which side of the line we like in the Texas A&M and Mississippi State game. So we're going to stick away from the spread, and we're going to go actually to the over-under. So this game is over-under 45. The Aggies, until last week, and even including last week, you could argue for the majority of the game, have not had a very inspiring offense. And the good offense that Mississippi State has had so far is going to be negated by the Aggies defense. 45, it's actually 45 and a half right now. That's just way too high. This game's going to be like 24-17 or something. In my personal opinion, I don't think there's any way this over hits. Drew, what about you?
Well, and the flip side, yes, Texas A&M doesn't have a great offense. Mississippi State is known for their passing game. And as you saw against their one and only decent team they've played this year, which is LSU, they scored 16 points in that game. And so you have to assume that Texas A&M has a better defense, especially secondary, than LSU. And I think if you watch Texas A&M, DJ Durkin was basically hired at Ole Miss to help Lane Kiffin beat Mississippi State, because that's that huge rivalry. Mississippi State had been down since Lane Kiffin was hired, and so they really wanted that passing defense situation there. And I think that's what's going to give, this game a really low score, because I think Mississippi State lives or dies by the throw, and I think A&M has a better defense than they've seen all year, including against when they were playing LSU. And so you have to assume that the under hits in this game, especially because not only that, Texas A&M in all 4 games they've played this year, the under has hit. So there's sort of a pattern going here. So we got to stick with those patterns. Also, just as a quick side note, we've actually been working on this computer model. There's been a lot of hours being put into it. It's a predictive analysis sort of thing, and it's just in trial, so take this with a grain of salt. We're kind of testing it out this week, seeing if we need any tweaks. But our model really likes the under on this game. It was saying that the total would be about 39, which we think is probably right. I think it was like, the final scores were around like in the low 20s, high teens. And so that's kind of where we're expecting this game to be. And so, yeah, I think we hammered the under there. And then we're going to go to our next segment here. And, some of y'all might not know this. It's our upsets of the week. We both picked just an upset. The 5 locks are us putting our minds together. And then we kind of just come out with a upset of the week that we talk about. And Jacob, why don't you get started and tell us your upset of the week? Because I think a lot of people are going to like it. We can't hear you, Jacob.
Yep, sorry, everybody. Everybody who's watched our videos in the last couple weeks since we've come back knows that we love Kansas around here. And this week is absolutely no exception. The Kansas Jayhawks at home with the 6th Heisman candidate at quarterback against an Iowa State team that, they're Iowa State. They just lost everybody. They're down bad right now. They're 3-point favorites against the Jayhawks. Make it make sense. I've been pleading my case for the Jayhawks for weeks. And I think this is the week that we finally see them get some credibility. They'll beat Iowa State as underdogs at home, and they will be ranked, and they will continue to be at the top of the Big 12, now improving to 2-0 in Big 12 play. There's no doubt in my mind that the Kansas Jayhawks win this game. ESPN FPI says Iowa State has a 61% chance to win this game. If you need any context for that, they also said Texas would be number, 7 in the country?
They're 6.
6.
And LSU is 7.
And LSU is 7. That's all you need to know to not trust the FPI. We trust the process, and we trust the dog, Jalen Daniels.
Oof.
We'll see you next week. If I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm going to take a lot of heat because I've tripled down now on the Kansas Jayhawks. But I am sticking to my guns. And until they prove me wrong, I am riding with the Hawks. All right, Drew, finish this off. Let us know.
Well, I don't know how I can top that, Jacob, but I will try. I am going to stay in the Big 12 with who I think personally is the best team in the Big 12 right now. Obviously, they're haven't really played against anybody for that statement to be, proved. But I think Oklahoma State beats Baylor this weekend. I think Baylor is, they've lost a lot of players. And even though Dave Aranda is a great coach, I think Oklahoma State has a great quarterback in Sanders. I think he's, 3-0 right now. They're in the top 10. And I haven't really seen much of the media talk about them. But I think they're a sneaky good team. They're the highest ranked team in the Big 12 right now. And yet I think on Caesars Sportsbook, they're still like 4th or 5th to win the Big 12. And so I really think that they're going to shoot up their odds this weekend after they go into Baylor Stadium, and they beat they beat Baylor in their own field. And I really do think that's the case. I don't think Baylor has really played great up to this point. I mean, they lost to BYU in a very close game. BYU got dominated in the next game. I don't know if that was because BYU was still riding on the high of beating Baylor, or if Oregon just surprisingly got good all of a sudden. But I'm still taking Oklahoma State. I think they put their name on the map this weekend, even though they're a top 10 team and nobody's talking about them. I think people will start saying that they may just be a playoff team after they beat Baylor this weekend.
Yep. Hey, the teams we just talked about upsetting very well could be the Big 12 championship. I wouldn't put money on it, but I'm putting my money on it.
All right. Well, thank y'all for tuning in, everybody. Make sure to like, subscribe, put it on that notification, then put in the comments if you disagree with anything. We don't recommend putting a parlay on these picks. You bet them. If you're gonna bet one, you got to bet them all. We have had positive records in the past, and so make sure to subscribe and tune into this because this will be done weekly. And yeah, Jacob, you got anything else for us?
No, I think that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like Drew said, like, comment, subscribe. We had a little prediction for this weekend. So if you want to go check out that video, that's a great video to watch too. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, everybody.
All right, everybody. Peace.
Peace.